in what the opportunity of the Russian market could be. And I think it's a sign that this is a market that is bubbling up, and clearly there's an enormous opportunity. There's a huge addressable market out there of current smokers in Russia. The opportunity is huge. So I think, you know, that's for me one of the biggest lessons from this event.
Great, thank you. Oliver.
I think from Roger and Jingwen and Yi's presentations today, I'm astonished by the trajectory of the Chinese market currently. It seems to me, I'm absolutely blown away by some of the data that we saw earlier. And I believe that could happen in Russia. It could happen in almost any country at which there's a sort of critical threshold at which people start to buy into these products, especially now that the technology is beginning to mature a little bit. But back to the Russian situation, I'm also struck by a real sense of criticality, of importance of where we are currently. And I believe that Ray and Arno have to some extent underlined the real importance that people in this room need to think very carefully about banding together, noting that everybody has their own commercial interests, but it's hugely important in getting unity within the industry as early as possible. I'm struck by the American situation in which it's almost impossible to get anybody to agree on standards because the industry is so fragmented and there's such a lack of unity, that if the Russian industry can start now and actually get that process underway, I think it will do the Russian industry a huge, huge favour.
Very, very simply, I would love to be where you are right now, but go back 3 years and have people in front of me explaining what is going to happen and how it's going to happen. You guys are really lucky because you're at a critical point, as Ali said, and you have proof in front of you that you can make a difference, and you can make a difference together. And I think the best word in that phrase is together. Don't be afraid, and don't put your commercial interests aside, and talk to your colleagues, talk to your fellow distributors, your fellow producers, and work together. This is very, very important for the entire Russian e-cig industry.
Thank you very much. Obviously, in this conference today,
especially when the industry starts to begin. And so, for example, in Chinese market, they start to have some vapor shop, the retailer, so now more than 150. So people, experience center, people can go and try and get some education from the professionals. So maybe it should be useful for the Russian market as well. And I mean, for the manufacturer of the e-liquid or even for the device, more than manufacture or production, but better to provide the branded solution. Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, we're a data company, so I guess take what I'm about to say from that perspective rather than as an e-cigarette company ourselves. But a couple of things that I think are of real interest to Russia, as Arno referred to, there's quite a lot of precedent of other markets which the Russian market can look to in terms of how it might develop here. So a lot of these fights have already been gone through. A lot of the way that the market is likely to develop in Russia will probably match one or more of the markets elsewhere in the world which have a higher prevalence rate and a higher usage rate of e-cigarettes. So in many ways there's an advantage there because there's some precedent to look at and some lessons to have been learned. The other thing I would say, and I think this might be echoed by the others on the panel here, is engage early with people who are going to take decisions that could make or break this industry. It's early days in Russia. We've seen in markets around the world how easy it is for some bad regulation to have a massively detrimental effect on the market. And generally, bad regulation is made by people who don't have data and don't have an understanding about the sector. So I guess my advice would be engage early, provide them with information on the sector, provide people who need to know what it is that we're talking about, and And the sooner they start to understand it, the more likely it is that regulation will come out that is sensible